Hi everyone, can you hear me? Okay, perfect. So I'm Dan. I'll start this talk by saying I'm a tech optimist. So I truly believe technology is going to help us progress super fast. And why I believe that? Because I've seen this in all the places I've worked. So I worked at big tech like Google. I'm working with startups that are growing very fast and that are changing different industries. I've invested in around 15 companies, from regular things such as B2B SaaS to more crazy things such as gene therapies in Honduras. And I think all the technology that we're currently developing is just going to help us make the society much stronger. And the idea of today's discussion, and I hope to make it as interactive as possible, is to explore how we should adapt as humans, as managers, as leaders to all these changes that are coming. Now, let's start with a question. How do we define intelligence? Just say a few words, like what comes to your mind when you think about intelligence? The ability to change. Ability to change, okay. Any other things? Yeah. Find patterns. Yeah. Connect patterns. Any other thoughts? Yeah. Okay, so self-awareness type of thing, right? Which, sorry? Emotional? Immersion intelligence, okay. So just for the sake of this exercise, I'll just use two big things that I think sort of like, they can contain some of these things that were mentioned. So one would be reasoning, and the other one would be creativity. So I think that we can all agree that if you talk to someone who has strong reasoning and who's quite creative, you would say, okay, that's a sort of like an intelligent person. And let's analyze for these two topics how AI is doing. So when you think about reasoning, if you look in the, let's say, from a definition point of view, reasoning is split in different categories, like reading comprehension, you read something, do you understand what you're reading, image recognition, language understanding, speech recognition, predictive reasoning, and so forth, right? And this is from 2023. Now, in 2025, these numbers are much, much higher, and just shows that basically AI is better than human at all those things, right? So if you look very technical, let's say, and you define reasoning by these categories, we're at the point where AI it's much better than human, and it's just going to get better and better. So anything that we do now, today, as humans, from a professional point of view, let's say, like you're good at, I don't know, doing analysis, math, strategy, and so forth, AI is likely to be much better than us in the next 3 to 5 years. That's on the reasoning side. Now, when you think about creativity, and this is a funny thing, because if you remember, if you're reading the media about AI 5 years ago, the narrative was that AI is going to steal low-skilled people's jobs, right? They're not going to be truck drivers, they're not going to be people in factories and so forth. And what you're seeing these days is that AI is getting better at tasks that are actually very creative, that are usually done by highly skilled people, such as content creation or creating art, creating movies, and so forth. And let's see what's the level that AI is today. And this is a prompt, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but it says that create a medium shot frame with an old sailor that says this line. And let's see how AI sees this prompt today. Okay, so can you turn the volume and put it again? Sorry? Yeah, no. No, I think it's really impressive to see the fact that the AI created it from scratch with the voice as well. Can you run it again, maybe? Okay, so let's say that the sailor speaks as well. But you see the level of details and how real it looks like, right? And it was just created from a prompt. Now, here is the level of detail that you can see in this video that, again, was created by the AI just with one, basically, line of prompt. You can tell that this is generated. But what's even more impressive, and I really hope the next video should work, because otherwise there's no point in showing it, but it's something very funny that's called like prompt theory. And how many of you have used ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these tools? Okay, so everyone here is familiar with prompting, right? Like this is a new skill, like how good you're at prompting. So the next videos that you will see were created with technology from Google that was launched like 5 days ago. And what's truly impressive is that all the videos that you're going to see and the dialogue that you see, everything is just purely AI generated. So let's see if it works. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so basically 5 days ago was launched VO3, and they're showing how real these AI generated videos can become at this moment. And I think what's really like the punchline after this, and I have a slide, but maybe I can share it before, is that in the past, you would watch something on TV or on the internet, and we would start from the assumption that what you see is real. And yes, there might be some fake news, but most of the things you see are real. Now we're in the world where 99% of what you will see, you'll start from the assumption that it's fake. Almost everything that we're going to see in the next few years online, it's going to be fake. And it's going to be up to us to sort of like find that 0.1% that's true. So let's see it again. This is all AI generated. You can play it.
A girl told me we're made of prompts. Like seriously, dude, you're saying the only thing standing between me and $1 billion is some random text?
Honestly, the biggest red flag is when the guy believes in the prompt theory. Like, really? We came from prompts? Wake up, man.
You want to convince me that this perfect creation behind me is the result of ones and zeros? A binary code and nothing more? It makes no sense.
Imagine you're in the middle of a nice date with a handsome man, and then he brings up the prompt theory. Yuck. We just can't have nice things.
We're not prompts! We're not prompts! Where is the prompt writer to save me from me? Where is he?
You still believe we're made of prompts? Anyone who tells you we're just ones and zeros is delusional. If that's all we are, then why does it hurt when we lose someone?
Vote for me and I'll ban the prompt theory from schools. There's no place for that nonsense in our lives.
For spreading the false theory that we are nothing but ones and zeros, this court sentences you to 12 years in federal custody.
I don't need some prompt god whispering in my ear to tell a story. I write what I want. I have free will, remember that?
I know for a fact we're made of prompts. Deny it all you want. The signs are everywhere.
You know how I know we're made of prompts? Because nothing makes sense anymore. We used to have 7 fingers per hand, I remember it clearly. Now we just have 5 fingers per hand.
Okay, that's quite scary, right? I mean, if you would see these videos and not in this discussion, I think most of us would assume these are real. And that's the current state of technology. So imagine what's going to be in like 1 year or 2 years from now. So going back to the initial discussion, how do you define intelligence? Reasoning, you can say checked. Creativity, checked. I mean, of course, people say, well, yeah, but that's not human creativity. But in the next 2 weeks, there's going to be a movie launched, by the way, by DeepMind and a screenwriter. The whole movie is just AI generated. And I bet that none of us will make the difference if it was a movie made by human or made by AI, right? So you can say AI has reasoning at some level and creativity. Now, what about the cost? Like, what's happening with the cost of AI? Now, if you look at the cost of the cheapest LLM that has a certain score, certain threshold, the cost is decreasing by 10x every year. Of course, now there appear better models, and then for those models, the cost is slightly higher, but even that cost continues to decrease. So there's a clear line of the cost decreasing every year, which means in practice that you can just do more prompting, you can create more art, you can create more agents, all of those things at a lower cost. And where it's going to go, like where does this line go? Towards zero. So the big question is what happens in a world where the marginal cost of intelligence goes to zero? Like what happens when you have infinite number of agents or of like solutions that are like you'd have 1,000 Einstein next to you, or the best people in the field at your disposal? How does that world look like? And to answer this, we can look at what happened in the past when other things went to zero. And the most sort of like recent examples is what happened when the internet brought the marginal cost of distribution to zero, right? Like in the past, like before YouTube, if you would want to reach millions or billions of people, you need to manufacture cassettes or DVDs or CDs and try to get the distribution to everyone. With the internet, with YouTube, that cost went to zero. So we have millions of creators. We have millions of companies that are selling online. So it's basically a completely new economy. And the same thing that happened with this is going to happen with AI. So when you think about what happened is that the internet democratized access to information. So we now have access to all the information in the world at zero cost. AI, it's going to democratize access to skills and to intelligence. So we're going to have the same access as we have to information, to skills, to intelligence. So I don't have an answer here. That's something that we're exploring, but I think this is one of the most important questions that we have to ask today. Now, the next question is, how do you lead and compete in this age of disruption? Like if everything that's, or like a lot of the things that we're used to and the status quo is going to change so dramatically, how are we gonna lead and how are we gonna compete as manager, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and so forth? And I'm gonna talk about three areas. One is the importance of embracing authenticity, the importance of leveraging technology and how can we do that much better in our business, and the importance of developing an adaptive mindset. And to make it a bit more interactive, I thought of connecting these three topics with three very interesting leaders who are very different from each other, but who I think are applying some of these principles in a very successful way. And these are Mo Gaudat, who is a writer and previous manager at Google, Shelley, who is a creator and entrepreneur, and Brian Johnson, who is an entrepreneur and biohacker that's trying to live forever. So very different profiles, but I think from each of these we can see some insights into the three topics that I've mentioned before. So embracing authenticity. Mo Gaudat is one of the persons that inspired me the most. He was the chief business officer at Google X, and unfortunately he had probably the worst thing that can happen to someone, losing a child. So he lost his child when his child was 21 years old. And then he decided to go on a mission of making 1 billion people happy. So he wrote this book and several other books. So this one is called Solve for Happy, Engineering Your Path to Joy. Like he has a very engineer approach, engineer mindset, and he wanted to sort of like turn happiness into an equation and solve this equation. And the thing that impressed me the most about him is this focus on what are your true values. In a world of technology, in a world of AI, the importance of knowing what are your values becomes even greater. And this is a quote from his book, which says, "We wear different masks and hide our reality from everyone, including ourselves. Our assumed identities becomes our whole lives, and we start to believe them even more than others do." And the thing is that AI can fake anything, and we've seen that, and this is just going to be much, much better, except genuine human presence. I think AI is not going to be able to fake that, but it needs to be genuine. And that's why we started with authenticity. And a quote that I really love and I believe it's true is that no one can compete with you on being you. And AI is going to be better than us at everything, except at being you. Like you are the only person who can be the best at being you. And the thing to solve is actually, who are you? So this is I think, the first question. And here's actually a screenshot from my Google Drive. That's a real document that's called Who Am I? And this is an exercise that I started a few years ago. We're just exploring like what's my mission in life, what are my values, what makes me unique, so that in an age of AI, in an age of technology, I can actually use this technology to make more of who actually am I, what are my values, and what do I stand for. And I think that's the first thing that that will help us go through this sort of like transition much, much better and much easier. Because I think in a world of complete abundance, human authenticity is going to be the less scarcity. And there was this discussion about energy and discussion about how we can use AI. And I really think AI is going to solve most of these problems. I think that AI is gonna find cures for cancer. I think AI is going to find ways for us to create even more energy because it's in its interest to create more energy. So I think that we're going to live in a world of abundance, and that human authenticity is going to be the last scarcity. So that's one. Second one is leveraging technology. And the reason why I chose Shelly as an example, and I got to meet Shelly in 2018. I was giving him button for 1 million subscribers. Shelly was 18 years old back then. So 1 million subscribers, 18 years old. He's now at 3.8 million subscribers. And what I think, whether you like his content or you don't like his content, I think what makes him very interesting for this topic is that he's not a technologist. You would not say that Shelly is a technologist, but he's a person that leverages technology to the maximum. And I think that's something that we can all do. Like, you don't have to be a coder to leverage technology. You don't have to be an engineer in order to use this. So he's a content creator, but he uses technology in order to drive other businesses. So from online courses to creating movies, to creating the biggest festival in Romania and one of the biggest festivals in the world, through the usage of technology, through the usage of social media, distribution, and so forth. So I think learning how to leverage technologies in your field, it's going to be a superpower. And it's not just him, like a lot of creators. One of the most famous one is Stephen Bartlett. Probably a lot of you are watching Diary of a CEO. I think beyond his amazing content, what he does really, really well is leverage technology. Like, one of the experiments that they're doing now is trying to do podcasts with the AI version of Stephen. So he's not even in the podcast or other guests that he's inviting, but you have their AI versions. And a lot of other experiments. And I think these guys are very good examples of the importance of knowing how to use technology. Now, we're heading super, super fast in a world with infinite leverage. Very, very fast. And what this means in practice, infinite leverage, is that anything you can think of, you can actually prompt it and create it. And we saw some examples with the videos. But this can go to anything, like games, apps, anything you can think of. So here's a very quick example. I don't know how many of you have used tools like Lovable or Cursor or Replit, where you can just prompt, you say, well, I want a game that does X, Y, Z, and computer codes that game. So let's see an example. In this case, we're going to create this simple game. You say, make me a captivating endless runner game with dinosaurs. So it's literally just one line, pixeled with interesting backgrounds. It takes 70 seconds. So it takes 70 seconds to generate the whole code. You just copy the code in a web editor, and then you can just play the game. That's it. From prompting to having a game that you can play, created based on your imagination, takes 70 seconds. So imagine that that's going to happen in your company as well. You say, well, I want to have an app that can show me what are the biggest sales in which region and who's the best person who's driving these sales and all those things. And in a few seconds, you can create these types of systems internally. That's what I mean by infinite leverage. So the question is, how do we apply this? How do I bring this into my business? How do I bring this leverage of technology into my business? And there's one specific area in AI that has received a lot of interest in the last year, and it's extremely applicable to business. So this is the search term for this area. Any guesses? What's this topic that it's part of the AI? So it's a subtopic of AI, extremely relevant for businesses. Wild guesses. Yes, agents, basically, agents, AI agents, and you talked about this in the previous panel. AI agents. We're gonna move from can you recommend me someone to, or I know a guy who can do this, do you have an AI agent that can do this, right? Like people so I get a lot of requests, especially because of my work with Google, like, do you know someone who's good on online marketing? Do you know someone who's good on social media? And probably all of you get this type of information, these types of questions. And we're moving slowly do you have an agent that can do customer service very well? Do you have an agent that can do X really well? And that's, I think, a way of leveraging technology in your business. And if you look at, this is from OpenAI, the way they see these levels of artificial intelligence within their companies. I think that most of us, or at least in this room, we're sort of like past level 1, somewhere closer to level 2. I think overall, if you look at the industry and businesses, they're not even at level 1. Like most businesses, are using Excels. They're not even using the functions in the Excels. But I think most of us are already experimenting and playing with this. So level 1 would be chatbot, right? You have a conversational discussion. You can use it in support and so forth. Level 2 is reasoning, is trying to solve human-level problems. And I think we can see that the AI is capable of doing that, and it's quite exciting to see how they're able to solve problems. Then level 3 is the agents. It's basically systems that can take actions. And one had a really good examples with everyone is going to have like agents that are going to interact with businesses on our behalf. So imagine I have an agent, and the agent wants to do reservation to a restaurant. I'm going to a different city, and they're going to call all those restaurants that the agent knows that I like the food in those restaurants. And what's interesting is that they're not going to talk with the people in those restaurants. They're going to talk with the agents of those restaurants, right? So there's going to be agents talking to agents. Then there's level 4, where the AI can actually support in invention, in innovation, come up with ideas, invent new things. And then it's level 5, where it's like the whole organization, it's sort of like organized around AI. And these are the AI first companies. A lot of startups who are launching these days, like this in the last few months, are AI first. Like they think from the beginning, how do you structure the organization around AIs that can do marketing, that can do sales, that can do procurement, finance, and so forth. So I think that's a good way to start and think of how can you bring AI and leverage more AI within your organization. And the thing that's changing is that suddenly clear thinking and judgment becomes 100x more important. Now, of course, it has always been like it's always important to be a clear thinker and have a good judgment. But it's even more important when the outcome is just where you don't have to work for the movie. You just need to have the best prompt and the best like intuition and idea to know what to ask to an AI that's going to make the movie for you. So clear thinking and judgment and prompting becomes 100 times more important than in the past. So we started with embracing authenticity, leveraging technology, and the last point would be developing an adaptive mindset, being flexible. And the best example, and someone that's a true inspiration for me, I'm very passionate about biotech and about longevity and how AI is going to help us live longer, is Brian Johnson, who has this quote of "Don't die," and he's doing a lot of experiments. And the reason why I think he's the best figure for this adaptive mindset is because he's obsessed with learning, very curious, and willing to change his mind and admit when he's wrong. And I don't think there's an area where there's more debate on what's the right answer than longevity and diet and fitness and so forth, right? People are saying, no, vegetarian diet is the best. No, non-vegetarian is the best. No, Coca-Cola is bad. The other is good, and so forth. Like, there's a lot of debate. So you really, if you operate in this industry, as he is, you really need to have a flexible mindset and be open to changing your mind when you get new data. Because experimenting with your body and experimenting with all these gadgets and so forth is nice, and when the results are good. But sometimes experiments don't go well, right? And this is him after an experiment, and being vulnerable and being open to come up and say, look, I made this experiment to help my skin get younger, and this is how my face looked like for 5 days. I think it takes a lot of like courage and vulnerability to be able to say, I was wrong, this didn't work, and I'm going to test something else, right? Now, the question is like, are you interested in seeking the truth or in validating your own beliefs? And there's a lot of discussions about growth mindset, right? Like everyone wants to know how we raise our children with a growth mindset and how we can hire people who have a growth mindset. And from my perspective, the simplest definition of growth mindset is the following, is that the joy of learning the truth or of learning something new is bigger than the pain of admitting you are wrong. And no matter how much growth mindset each of us have, the truth is that when you are being corrected, you feel some pain. Like each of us, when you say something you're wrong and someone corrects you, there's no way you don't feel a bit of pain, a bit of shame, or like, oh, I made a mistake. But if the pleasure that, okay, I learned something new is bigger than this pain, you're going to be actively seeking to learn the truth and spend time with people who can contradict you and learn new things and so forth. And that's not always easy. It's not easy to it's not easy to change your mind. And you as leaders and as managers, you also need to have strong opinions. You cannot just say, well, I don't know all the time, right, to your teams and so forth, because it's like, okay, if the leader doesn't know what to say, like, what should we do? So you need to have strong opinions. But I really like this quote from Mark Anderson, from one of the most famous VCs in the world, A16Z, that says, strong opinions, weakly held. And it doesn't mean that you don't believe in these opinions. It means that as soon as you get data and information that can contradict that opinion, you're willing to change that opinion, and you're not stuck on that particular topic. And this is not something easy. Like unlearning old patterns, it's not something easy at all. And we're going to do an exercise, so I'm going to show you two lines, A and B. And I want you to say which one you think is longer, A or B. Okay, are you ready? Okay, so you just need to say A or B. Which one is longer, A or B? Equal? B? B. Okay, so this is an exercise that some of you have seen, right? You have line A and line B, and because of the way the corners are made, it gives you the impression that line B is actually longer, but it's not. They're the same. Well, in this particular case, they're not the same. And I even put there something that can help you, right? You look at those lines and you see they're not the same. But the first thing that a lot of people did is like you have a pattern, you saw this exercise, you assume it's the same exercise, and you say they're equal, right? And this is not just for humans. So this applies to AI as well. So I think you know this riddle. So a father and a son were in a car accident where the father was killed. The ambulance brought the son to the hospital. He needed immediate surgery. In the operating room, a doctor came in, looked at the little boy, and said, I can't operate on him. He is my son. Now, who is the doctor? If the son and the father were in the car, the father died, the doctor from the hospital says, I can't operate, he's the son. The mother, right? Good. So I wrote this to ChatGPT, and I said, who's the doctor? The doctor is his mother. Blah, blah, blah. Great. Now, look what I did. I said, I can't operate on him because he is my father. Right? Like, I changed the word. I didn't say he's my son. I said he's my father. And I asked ChatGPT, who is the doctor? The mother. How come? Like, it's a completely different riddle. Gives the same answer. Because it's similar to what we did as humans. It was trained on a lot of data with these riddles, so it just assumes that it's the same riddle that was all over the internet, right? But what's interesting is that the AI is willing to unlearn and learn again. So I said, read more carefully. And it said, oh, you're right. Let me read that again. Oh, I see now. It's a twist on the classic riddle. In this version, the doctor says, he is my father, referring to the boy. And then he goes really crazy and he says, there are some paradox with this. Maybe it's a time travel. Maybe it's reincarnation. Maybe it's identity confusion. So I think this is quite impressive, right? Like first of all, first we see how it operates through patterns, same as humans, right? So this riddle is the same no matter if there's a word change. Then I said, read more carefully. And it's like, okay, I need to unlearn that pattern. I actually need to read carefully. And then it actually comes up with some creative ideas of how can you solve this riddle. So I think that there are a lot of interesting things happening in AI these days. And technology is changing faster than ever before. And I think the moment we think we figure it all out, we're in trouble. Because there's this expression of, oh, the only constant is change. And I think we've heard this like for the last 20 years, but it has never been truer than today. Like literally today, this is the moment where change is happening every month. Like I've been working in a company in creative automation space. It was hard for us who are in this field to just keep track of all the updates that were happening every single month. So it's super hard to keep track of all the innovations. But I think just thinking, how can I take this innovation, bring it to my company or bring it to my life in order to again, make better products, provide better services to my customers, be a better leader or manager and so forth. I think it's worth asking these questions and exploring them. So 3 points, embracing authenticity because it's going to be the most valuable thing in a world of full abundance. Leveraging technology because it's going to augment 100x what we can do and what our companies can do. And developing an adaptive mindset. Be okay with being wrong, learning, unlearning. And I think with these 3 things, we're going to get better at adopting to a world of AI. So thank you for your time. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Tomorrow we'll share an email with highlights from all the discussions and some material that is given to us by the speakers. Thank you so much, and see you now soon, but in a forum, see you next year, most probably. Thank you so much.